Welcome to the AI Chat Podcast. Today on the podcast, we have the pleasure of being joined by the legendary Torrey Leonard from an incredible company doing something in the phone call automation space. Torrey, tell us about your company and give us like a brief overview of exactly what you are. I guess the elevator pitch of what you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jaden. You humble me. So Thoughtly, what we're building is essentially anything you can train a human to do in your call centers, you can also train an AI agent to do through Thoughtly. So essentially, we have an agent accelerator program where we take you through a 30-day cohort, and we build your agents out in a very easy-to-use interface where you can essentially script and change a lot of the capabilities that your agents have. For example, the way we think about it is Thoughtly is the hands and fingers of any call center AI agent. And so it can speak on the phone just like a human would. It sounds just like a person. Sometimes people don't even know that they're talking to a Thoughtly agent, which is pretty funny. I've got some stories there. But what's important is then like the automations that happen afterwards. So for example, importing data into HubSpot, taking data and putting into Salesforce, and even making API requests in the middle of a phone call. We can do all of that and more.
This is amazing. And the thing that I think is so cool with this is that you're able to actually go in. It's not like just like a software where you plug in a couple things and it's like kind of limited in a couple ways. You go in and build these automations and you're building essentially kind of automating your workflow and what you're working on. This is what I was kind of drawn to when I first saw this that I thought was so fascinating. I want you to talk a little bit about that, but maybe first give everyone a little bit of context. Tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into this space? How did you kind of get into the company? What was your inspiration? I was looking through your LinkedIn and seeing you were head of product over at Pebble and over at Affinity, and you've been an advisor for Linear Logic, and you've done a bunch of interesting things over at a founding software engineer at Yik Yak. You've done some cool stuff. Give us a bit of your background and then kind of how you got into starting this in the first place.
Yeah, it's been a really long journey. I guess now I'm kind of a startup guy, but I didn't know that until really just a few years ago. It really started when I was in middle school. Funny enough, I actually started a Minecraft server. It became the largest Minecraft server in the world for a year, and we had over 1 million users. And as a 7th grader, I was like riding the bus home, and I had my iPhone 3 or whatever, and people would see my PayPal notifications because I was making 6 figures like from my Minecraft server. It was a crazy period, but it made me realize like I love building things that people love. And what really made me happy was going to the lunch table and hearing people over there talking about what they're going to go do after school. And then thinking there are people all across the globe right now at the lunch table talking to their friends about going and playing on my Minecraft server. And so it was a really fun experience, but made me realize like that's what I really enjoy. It's building products that people love. And so then I was in college, I built an app, got to the top charts of the iOS and the Play Store. People loved it. I kind of had my Mark Zuckerberg moment, like from the Social Network movie.
What was the app?
It's called Jetty. It's basically like, if you're familiar with Yik Yak. So it's kind of like, when I was in high school, there was Yik Yak. And then it got, bought by Square, shut down. I saw this hole in the market between two platforms. I was like, there needs to be a Vine because Vine was just shut down.
Yeah.
There needs to be a Yik Yak. These are two things that should exist because people love them and I don't know where they went. So I need to build one of them. I realized Vine, I don't know how to just like the distribution there would be too challenging. Building a video app, I'd have to get a bunch of influencers to build videos. But then a year later, TikTok came out. So glad I didn't do that. But I started on Jetty, got it, pretty popular at my college, other colleges across the country, really. Like Ohio State, George Washington University, all the way to schools in Utah. Loved using it. And that led to two things. One, I was reached out to by these two YC guys. They were, you can go see their story. They've got an incredible story, but they were 16 at the time.
Okay.
Raised $6 million from YC and some others and asked me to build their app because I was on the top charts of the App Store. So it made sense. Like I can build apps. I joined their team kind of simultaneously. The guys that acquired the rights to Yik Yak, they were building that platform. And so we got in touch and we were talking about, some synergies that we had with Jetty. So kind of crazy few years there. Then when I was working at Affinity, which is now that co-branded credit card platform. Those guys, Aaron and Sahil, are awesome, some of my best friends. But while I was there, I had this idea, and the thought was we were doing a lot of data collection from customers, and we were doing it through things like Typeform and SurveyMonkey. And I thought there's got to be something better than this now that we have this access to, what was basically ChatGPT and other language models. Like, why can't we do this more conversationally? And so I started working with that and with the high latency voice models at the time that 11 Labs and Play were putting out, and put together basically a way for you to talk back and forth with what seemed like a person on a Google Meet and answer a bunch of questions that a company wanted to ask. And then in the end, you would get this data, and you could use that data to, make decisions, just like a Typeform or a SurveyMonkey. Once I built it, I realized, this agent builder is really cool. It's really powerful. My first customers that loved it, they were like, this is awesome. I love the UX. You killed it here. But if it could connect to my VoIP system, that would be really cool. Yeah. So that was back in September. We started doing that, connecting it into the phone systems. It took a day or so. And that's where we found, like, okay, this is what people want. People loved that. One person told another, told another, told another. And all of a sudden we had hundreds of customers, paying customers, and we were really just off to the races.
That's amazing. Okay, so I mean, it's kind of interesting because when you look at your story, it feels like it could be all over the place, but it's pretty linear in a sense that you kind of are in this industry and one thing led to another. An amazing product. What have been some of the biggest challenges? You make it seem so easy, like, oh, I made this thing and it can like hop on like a Google Meet call. Like, obviously, if it was so easy, everyone would have done it. You guys are a company that's really crushing it specifically in this space. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome while building this product?
Yeah, I think that, something that I think about a lot is we live in a day and age where really there's so many engineers compared to like 10 years ago, especially 20 years ago. And so really like the hill that you need to climb in order to build a software tool, it's not huge. It's not like a very complex task. What is complex though is building something that people love. And a lot of people overlook that and think like, okay, I can just build or use like a SaaS in a box tool. I can just kind of use a template, throw stuff together. And sure, it saves time, but in the end, you're going to have a not great product that people aren't going to love, and nobody's going to tell other people about it. What's important, I think, is you need to really guide the user experience, the user interface, the way that you use the platform. Like, that needs to be the core part of, why you're building it. It needs to be like, hey, I'm solving a problem for somebody. And then, the product kind of becomes exactly like that solution for those people. And so the biggest challenge to date is we're kind of thinking of these new concepts ex nihilo, because prior to Thoughtly and some other platforms that are like it, nothing like this really existed. And so we have to come up with these new concepts. People want a feature. It needs to be built for the first time ever. We're not, taking from an example somewhere else. So that's been really challenging, but it's also been the most fun. I mean, this is what I love. I love kind of coming up with new concepts, new designs, and implementing them for people and seeing how they react. And every time they've loved it.
That's amazing. Okay, so far things are looking like amazing. I want to go like back right to the beginning of Thoughtly. At what point in kind of your story and your journey were you like, oh my gosh, I need to create this company and it's going to be called Thoughtly? And like, do you have like co-founders on this? Like, how did you like walk me through like the first like month of like getting this thing, deciding this was going to be like a project that you're going to work on?
Yeah, it's funny. We actually started because we saw the capabilities of voice agents and how you can converse conversationally with AI. We saw the potential first as being like a content generation tool, which I think you'll find really interesting. What we originally thought of was, of course, like that, data collection. And then we thought, what about, you hop on a call like this and you sit for 30 minutes and talk to a voice agent interviewing you. And then you can just take that content and then just auto clip it up and become a thought leader. And so we named the company Thought Lead. And so the actual entity name is Thought Lead Inc.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's awesome.
But it was that with the combination of that data collection tool that we built. We were trying to figure out like what is really the need here. And then it was the voice agent builder that we built is what people really liked and what people were drawn to. And so that's when we were like, okay, it can't be called Thought Lead now because you're not going to be a thought leader with your phone system. That doesn't make any sense. Thought Lead, that's a good change. And my co-founder, second guy over there, Casey, he's been working with me on this since back in July. And he was actually in college while working on Thoughtly, which is crazy. You like,
Oh my
you
God.
get on a customer call, helping customers for hours, and then you have to go do an essay. And I'm like, dude, you're crazy. You just
I'm hoping at least he was able to leverage ChatGPT to do the essay.
That's the only reason he graduated.
Yeah, so I'm really jealous, especially of the people right as kind of ChatGPT was starting.
Mhm.
It wasn't really known too much. Everything. It would have been a great time to be in college. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
It might have passed.
yeah, it might have. I always think about that. I'm like, if I was in college with ChatGPT, I think I'd get like I don't know, I'd get a 4.0 easily.
You could have spent so much time on businesses. That would have been great.
Exactly.
So you guys realized that this is going to be something. Did you raise funding at the beginning, or did you kind of get into the product and decide to do it? Tell me about your like funding and how that went.
Yeah, so this is something I really like to talk about this because it's a really interesting part of the journey for like a tech startup founder. We started off with that thought lead concept as like, hey, we know people who would pay for this. People were paying, $4,000 for a human to do this per month. Yeah. And so we thought, okay, we could do, $1,000 a month. We don't need to raise money. But then I realized like, this is just not the kind of business I want to build. And I really enjoyed the agent builder. So of course that led us to the telephony side of things. I really, really loved building that product. And for the first few months, it was pretty challenging. Like from after leaving Affinity in September, my hard stop deadline was like, and I told my wife, I need to raise money for this by the end of the year. And if not, I have to go get a job because, we have to support each other.
Yeah.
By the time it got to the first week of January, things were looking bad. I was in a lot of debt. And we got on this call with this accelerator.
January this year?
This year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We're down to the wire.
Oh, yeah. We're down to the wire. So I passed my deadline, but I got on this call, two calls that week. One was with Pioneer, which is Daniel Gross's accelerator program. He runs AI Grant, if you're familiar with it. And the other was with the Ohio Angel Collective. I'd spoken with the OAC back in October. They said, hey, let's reconnect back up in January. Let's see where you are. Pioneer had reached out to me. They have a machine learning model that like matches founders that they find. That kind of happened in December of that last year. So by January, I'm like living life on the edge. And within 1 week, Pioneer put in $20K, which is like a huge weight off my shoulders. At least I could make a very small stipend. And the OAC said that they would commit an investment of like an unknown size. So that felt really good. We ended up going to San Francisco for the Pioneer Summit with a lot of awesome founders that I love those guys and girls. Like everybody in that program was exceptional. But while I was there, we were working every single day out of the Pioneer office in downtown SF. And eventually we had many of these mid-market customers we had been working with. We had two large enterprise customers reach out to us, and they were very serious about moving forward with 5 million calls per month each. And Casey and I were like, how are we going to support this? This seems impossible. And so I decided on that day, it was like Wednesday. Okay, it's time to officially raise our seed round. And so I'm in like so much debt, so that's part of it. But I'm really just thinking about the business. Like this is what the business needs at this point. And so I reach out to my network. I send an email to our customers in our newsletter update. It's like, hey, we're raising our seed. Let me know if you have any contacts or interest.
How many customers did you have? Like, how big was that list?
That was about 400. So that was like at that time, probably 150 paying customers, much smaller than we are today. But about 400 people had signed up, used the platform, tried it out. So that was on like a Tuesday or Wednesday. By Sunday, I got in touch with Gaurav at A4 through a friend of mine. And by Wednesday of the following week, he committed and led our seed round. So that was really exciting. And that was an awesome moment, but it was like a really long journey. And, I didn't go to Stanford, Berkeley, right, and just like walk out the door and say like, hey, I'm ready to raise money. This was a big challenge and it was really stressful. It took a long time, but, I think that like the hard work eventually got me to a point where it made sense. I had built a really compelling narrative around the company, and so it made sense.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so interesting. I feel like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, great! Like, you went and like in like a week or two, you like pulled everything together, and were able to pull this whole thing off." And like in reality, it's not even just like the whole, since January that you're cranking hard on this. Yeah, I mean, it's the last 10 years of your life that build up to it, to the overnight success or whatever. So I love that story, and I think that's amazing. So what did it look like? You close your seed round, you get some funding in. What were your next steps? Like, how did you expand the business, and what were the things you rolled out? Like, how did you change your roadmap? Walk me through next steps for you.
Yeah, so right after that, I went back to the offices. After I met in South Park at the A4 office, I went back to the Pioneer office where all of my fellow founders were. And they were all, of course, like super, super excited for us, Casey and I. And the first thing they said was like, "Are you going to Blade now? Are you going to Uber everywhere?" And nothing like that happens. Nothing like, no lifestyle change takes place, which I think that some people, I thought, like, oh, now I'm going to be like this funded founder. Nothing changes. In fact, I think I have less money. But everybody was asking, I think the important thing is, first of all, like, this was the amount of rejections I got was, I mean, in the hundreds. So months of that leading to one yes. So that's important. But then what changed after that in terms of like changing the business, of course, we had to hire quickly, and we had to, end up creating like actual revenue targets that we wanted to hit. And so first things first was hiring engineers, bringing them on the team. It took a little longer than expected, but now we've got a stellar team. Not just everybody behind me, the two people behind me, but we've got more people. It's Friday, so people like working from Friday. And salespeople, customer success. It's really been since then growing the rest of the team. Also closing the seed round. So another thing there was A4 made intros to a huge amount of investors in their network, all of whom wanted to join in on the seed round. We ended up raising also from Greycroft, Expansion, Shift Left, and some other funds that came in, along with Andrew Ofsted, the co-founder of Airtable, which is
amazing.
Cool. He's awesome. And so after that's when that journey began, closing the seed round. And now we just closed that about a month ago. We launched last Monday. And so now we're out in public. And so now that changes. Now we're ready to do marketing, get ourselves out there. And, our lead funnel is growing so much just since doing that.
Amazing. That's so exciting. So you close this, you hire fast. You obviously have to build like a solid team for this. You said you launched last Monday. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my gosh. So I must have like just found this thing right after it was hot off the press. I mean, I was really impressed by it. So
Thank you.
Right at the beginning, what is your vision when you look at what you're doing in your space? Where do you see this in like the next 3 to 5 years? Where is Thoughtly, and what is this industry? How has it evolved, especially with AI and everything that's getting implemented into it?
Yeah, the way I think about it, I really like this kind of comparison. It's interesting how, if you look at what like Apple is doing with consumer products, Apple is baking in voice AI into basically the consumer products we use on a daily basis. I'm sure Google, Samsung, everyone's going to follow. Google Home devices and Alexas are probably going to get a lot better as well. And the whole goal here is that we can interact with technology and software with our voice. So clearly on the consumer side of things, people like to interact with technology and software with their voice. Why wouldn't they? Like, if you're driving down the road, I don't want to have to send a text. I can just do it with my voice. Or if I'm, busy cooking in the kitchen, I can ask Google a question that's sitting on my countertop. So why can't the same service be provided to a business? That's our thinking. And so when you think about the best medium by which you can communicate with a business, like if a business had its own Siri, for example, that would be phone calling, because every business already has a phone system. And so what we want to do over the next 3 years is just build Siri for businesses. And so every major business, from the small mom and pop shop to Delta Airlines, can basically just have some agent sitting there standing by, ready for you to contact it and ask it to do something. So for Delta, example, you're walking through the terminal, you're late for your flight, you want to change the time, for example, you're not going to make it, call within 90 seconds, it's rebooked, you're on the next flight, no worries. As opposed to downloading the app, signing in, getting the email, finding the booking, all of that. It's just much easier with voice.
Amazing. Yeah, that's such a cool vision. I think there's going to be huge implications. And I mean, we're already seeing a lot of companies kind of putting some focus on voice. So I think that you're spot on with there. with that. Something I'd love to ask you about in this space, there's a lot of people that when I hear like them talk about, calling mixed with AI, they talk about like how robocallers are going to be using AI and it's going to be cloned and it's going to be like, you get all these spam or it's going to mess up in a company. And there's like all of these thoughts. What are some of the common misconceptions that people have about the industry? And how do you, and maybe some of the real problems and how do you kind of solve them?
Yeah, great question. First, right off the bat, in the United States, it is illegal for you to just cold call someone with AI. That's a robocall. That's illegal. If you get a cold call from an AI agent, you can report it and you could technically sue that person. So we do not allow that on Thoughtly. Our platform does not allow that to take place. Most of the calls we have are triggered, if they're outbound, through something like a HubSpot integration, Salesforce, Facebook lead ad. So you obviously have provided consent by entering a form on a website or filling out like an ad on Facebook or Instagram. Yeah. Then you consented to receive a call, but not just like, hey, this is whatever company, and you didn't want to get the call. That's not allowed. Right. So first misconception is people should not worry about that. And if it is, it's bad actors. And that's been around for 20 years. There are always going to be people who use technology to just call people. And it's not allowed, at least not on Thoughtly. The second is that this question of like, will voice AI agents be better for like a customer service experience or a sales experience? First, on the customer service front, my answer is a strong yes, because if you've ever called Verizon or like Sirius XM, for example, it's going to take an hour. Like you've got to kind of like block off your day, especially like a utility company.
The bank is so bad. Oh, utility companies. Utility companies are the winners for the worst. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to cancel my internet the other day and I was on the phone or on hold for 1 full hour. And I'm like, this is not worth my life. It was like, I was canceling like a $50 month internet subscription. I'm like, how am I spending a whole hour doing this? Horrible.
Yeah. It's awful. And part of it is also like they intentionally want that friction. So that
yeah.
But my life hack, side note, is there's this cool website. I'm not like sponsored by them, but privacy.com. I love those guys because you can just create a card and I'll put it on like Sirius XM, for example, or Spectrum. And then when I want to cancel service, I don't have to call anybody. I just close the card down and they can't charge me anymore.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Light hack. Yeah. That's a fun one. Or gym membership, right? That's another one. So anyway, that's that. But the other thing is, with customer service, with AI, imagine getting that taken care of. If there wasn't intentional friction, it would be done in a matter of seconds, minutes, if anything. If there's some sort of customer service experience that could be automated, why wouldn't you want it to be? The only reason you wouldn't is if it's like press 1, press 2, or something annoying like that. But when it sounds like a human over the phone, it doesn't matter if you're talking to a person, if they get the job done quicker. I would say no. The second is sales. So a lot of our customers use Thoughtly to do outbound calls to opted-in consented leads. And when they do that, the question is like, hey, I'm getting this call from someone that's an AI. Is that good or is that bad? Well, the idea here is you're an opted-in lead. You've consented to receive a call. And so you probably want that service. And so we've actually never had any complaints of like, hey, I didn't want to get this call. It's more like I went on a website, filled out a form that I'm interested in, like my bathroom to be remodeled, for example.
Yeah.
The phone number then goes into their HubSpot, which then goes and triggers a Thoughtly call. I get a call, and it's just to set up an appointment for someone to come and look at my bathroom and give me a quote. That's awesome. Like, I'm happy about that because I intentionally went out and filled out the form. If you had to wait for a person, it could take a day for them to sit down and go through all these leads and find you and call you and book an appointment. It's just faster service. So on both fronts, you get quicker and better service.
Yeah. That sounds like, especially for opt-in and like the user wants it, like an absolute no-brainer. I mean, we saw, not in this kind of innovative call space, but sort of something similar when it comes to customer service with, I believe, Klarna did it, and they automated the work of like 700 customer support agents. And I know lots of people have like different opinions on like automating all the people's jobs and stuff. At the end of the day, it saved the company a lot of money and their customer satisfaction scores raised. And like, it makes perfect sense to me that like, if it's a bot or a human, I don't care. If it can get the job done and resolve my issue faster, like, please just give me that. Like, if I don't have to wait an hour on the phone for my utility company, and if it was a bot and it would just do it in 5 minutes, fine, just cancel me in 5 minutes. Like, I'm not going to complain about that, or book me in 5 minutes or whatever. So I think you're spot on. It's not just like the companies. Like, yeah, companies will sign up to use this, but their customers are the ones that are like benefiting and loving it. It's not like they got a worse experience. No, they got a faster experience. Like
exactly.
The old one was terrible.
And I think that like call center, like the occupation of humans working in call centers, I don't think that it will go away. Like this is not replacing everybody, because I think that there's still two use cases where you have humans in call centers. It's necessary. First, it's like with companies that we work with, it's that top 10% of issues that can't be solved. It still needs to go to a human so they can take care of it. Second, in the sales side of things, you still need a closer, like an AE.
Yeah.
So if Thoughtly is like your SDR, BDR, and setting up the appointment or the call or whatever, you still need someone to close that deal. I think we're a ways away from AI account executives. It's a little bit more challenging. And then the other side of this is with luxury products. Like if I'm paying a premium for MX, or I know someone who's a call center agent for Bloomberg, for example, talks to everybody who has a terminal. You're paying like what, 30 grand for a Bloomberg terminal? You don't want to talk to an AI. I don't think Bloomberg will never have a Thoughtly agent pick up the phone. And that's cool. And that's fine. Same with like Discover. They're not a premium product, but they have in their messaging like that you probably saw the Super Bowl ad that you're talking to a person, not a computer. I think that, companies will pick and choose based on their own motives. And if you can handle like the very high payroll that's required to have really high CSAT scores with only humans, then that's great. Go for it. But some companies can't. And so they just either have to struggle with like really bad customer satisfaction because they just can't. It's a huge cost to them that they can't afford, or they can use AI agents through Thoughtly.
100%. Yeah, no, that's a great point I think what's amazing about it is beyond helps company, helps customer, whatever. It also enables companies, like you mentioned, to do so much better that they wouldn't have existed, or just, their customers would have terrible experiences. And so I think that's something really interesting about AI. People complain about it replacing things or making things cheaper. It's like at the end of the day, if a company couldn't afford to have a live person on the phone, then the alternative is there just isn't one, and so the experience is bad. It's enabling this higher experience for everyone. So I love that. I think this is something super, super amazing. First of all, Torrey, this has been amazing having you on the podcast. Share your story, share what you guys are working on. This is really exciting stuff. One thing I would love to ask you about as we're wrapping this up, what is one piece of advice you feel like you could give to businesses, people maybe looking at integrating some of this technology into their stack or what they're doing? A lot of businesses right now, I think, can see how this would help them. What's a piece of advice or something you could leave them with?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do think that if you're looking to integrate voice AI or even conversational AI, it depends on the type of business you are. But for your standard business owner, it's like we're still not at a point where it's like totally self-serve attainable to just create the best agent possible to handle your phone calls, or from other companies, handle your chatbots. I think that in order to build a really powerful agent, you still need sort of like guidance. And that's why we've rolled out the Agent Accelerator program at Thoughtly. We really love that program. People who come in on board into the program have 30 days, and then they graduate and they have this agent that they can go in and make tweaks to, but we can guarantee, increase CSAT scores and even match the close rate of your human SDRs or salespeople that you were working with before. And so that's what I would say. I would say if you're coming to Thoughtly or looking at anything in the space, you kind of want to work with a partner first. That would be my top advice for someone that is looking to integrate something like Thoughtly or something in the chatbot space, anything like an AI solution.
I love that. Amazing advice. Torrey, this has been phenomenal having you on. If people are interested in following you or finding out more about your company, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, thought.ly. That's our website. You can find me. I'm a big, I love LinkedIn for some reason. Okay. You can find me on LinkedIn, Torrey Leonard. I'm also on Twitter, X, at Torrey Leonard. I got to work on my Twitter game though, so I'm going to step it up.
I'm in the same boat as you there. Yeah. I don't understand the algorithm of the platform, but somehow LinkedIn seems more straightforward. I'll step it up too, so we'll see. Thank you so much for coming on the show. To the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the AI Chat podcast. Make sure to rate us wherever you get your podcasts, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month slows. Full terms at mintmobile.com.